This is Gears of War 2. We're on Xbox Series X taking a look at this second entry in the series. This one has been given a boost in regards to the resolution and the FPS, though it does not have auto HDR support. I thought we'd open up with a bit of the campaign, kind of showing off the fun large-scale environment that this level brought in, which was kind of like absolutely nuts back in the day, and then showing off a little bit of the multiplayer as well. So in the sequel, we find Delta, once again headed by Marcus Phoenix. You know, we've got our bro Dom, Skull Train, Baird, you know, the usual folks. We're joined by some new guys too, as we kind of take the fight to the Locust. So what we're really doing here is actually going to their home for the first time, you know, under the ground. And it looks great. It really does, whether you're playing the campaign or the multiplayer. Or Horde, which was like a huge thing when this game came out. It was a big inclusion. Oh, there's Dizzy, that's fun. You know, it was kind of a big deal. You know, you got all these different modes here. It was kind of a really big, expansive offering. And I quite enjoyed this game. I have fond memories of it. I earned my wings in multiplayer, which took forever. Forever, even with like 30 times plus the XP. Now, when the game did launch, it was a little heartbreaking in the sense that the multiplayer wasn't really functioning correctly. They did fix that eventually, but I would just remember getting home from midnight and being like having to just play Horde because I couldn't, you know, connect with others in multiplayer. And even past that, playing with friends and stuff was really hard. It was a little soul crushing, but you know, today we have a very good, really well done Gears of War 2 game. You know, it all runs perfectly well. There's bots if you want to play, so you can keep doing that if you want to enjoy the multiplayer maps, because there's a lot of them. There's like extra DLC content in the form of like a deleted chapter, so you actually get extra campaign mission that wasn't. What are you shooting at, Dom? What are you firing at? Oh yeah, I guess we're supposed to be maybe shooting these things, but I think that's more of like a cinematic point. You know, there was this deleted chapter where you're kind of going in and doing stealth and stuff, so it's kind of a fun little thing to try out if you've never, you know, experienced that. This is a really stellar, emotionally driven campaign that kind of digs deep into our bro here, Dom. Really stepping in hard and hitting the emotional feelings that you might not expect from this kind of, you know, intense game. Oh wow, yeah, actually I wasn't paying attention too much, I guess, and we totally went flying off this. Got destroyed. That's hilarious. That's just kind of a little tease of that one. That's funny, but we're gonna just recheckpoint and actually pay attention this time and destroy those nemesis. They're kind of deadly. But yeah, it's kind of surprisingly in-depth narrative. I like the guy just like standing there kind of chilling. It's interesting. Yeah, you get, like, it's really bigger. That's what they were going for with this one. And I remember, again, you know, at the times, when you first start the campaign, you're like, holy, this is intense. Because I hadn't really seen anything to, like, this scale or this degree before, which, you know, even now, you know, you don't see too many games look for this kind of scale. You get the sense of grand wonder, but you don't necessarily get, like, these piles upon piles of enemies. Did you see that vehicle just like flip off of the side there? That was crazy. Well, everything does look really good. Some of the sky, I guess the skybox looks pretty good. It just kind of bothered me in the Gears games how we always have this like stagnant skybox. Yeah, you gotta battle these things. But when we get to the cooler sense of scale in a second here, I think. Once we get to like the bigger opening gaps where there's all these locusts anyways. And you also get like a deeper look at what the actual like locust horde kind of is. Like you get to understand their lore a lot more, and you get to discover their home, because that's the whole point of this, is kind of taking the battle to the locust for the first time. And it really did up the stakes in many ways, which I thought was interesting. But I think we're getting closer to more of an action-packed area. We lost a lot of vehicles doing this. You know, humanity has definitely had better days, that's for sure. But then there's also like a bit of a grim look at, I guess you could say, humanity too, or the cog. Basically their darker history, and that leads to some really messed up glass falling from the sky types of situations, which was always entertaining. Oh, looks like I think everybody's there. Oh, Ty too? Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's a really messed up, Oh, did all our, like, all our guys die here? But yeah, there's also that whole messed up storyline piece that's kind of intense. Not Betty. Oh no. And then there are selections where you're kind of making choices in regards to how you send out your characters, like the paths you kind of play. Just like minor adjustments in the story, I guess you could say. Oh, we don't have any grenades? Yeah, sure, whatever. And, oh, I also forgot, you know, we got Carmine too. Carmine in this one. He's got a funny thing. Oh, yeah, that's kind of a gory segment where you're jumping into a rather, I guess you could say, messed up situation. It's definitely kind of a crazy game when you think back to all of, like, the campaign moments. There's a giant worm thing. There's all these big set pieces. There's like a Brumok scene with like a little bit more of a writing edge to it. Because you might not be familiar with the Brumoks too much if you've just played the first game, unless you did Ultimate Edition, where they've got the extra chapter area where you get to enjoy the PC side of things, which had a Brumok scene. But this one brings a little bit more fun to that particular segment, which was kind of cool. Definitely still holds up well. But yeah, the gameplay really does feel fantastic here. Now, there's a little bit of a motion type blur when you kind of like you're running and stuff. It's just the design of the game, and it's kind of awkward looking with the boosts and quality and stuff. But that's just like the visual, the style, the aesthetic they were going for, the look when you're running and that, just to make it feel more intense. You gotta remember that they were dealing with certain constraints back in the day, and now things have just been boosted greatly. It really is kind of wild. And they improved like the execution system, the gore, the amount of enemies, the types of enemies. This one did a lot for the franchise. I think it's looked back upon pretty fondly for the sort of innovations it brought in, because a lot of the staples you see, they haven't even really moved past in the entries that have followed this one. There's even, like, yeah, I remember little bits of destruction. You kind of shoot the concrete a bit and you damage and stuff. That was cool. Oh, wow, I'm just getting absolutely blasted away here because there is not cover. Dom, give me a hand. Oh, I forgot, this was a little bit of a gritty, intense scene. Where am I getting shot from? Wow, I'm just ill-prepared for this situation. You want to give me a hand there? Was that... That's Benjamin. Okay. 2 downs. I'm not looking so professional here. And there's different difficulty levels too. If you really want a good challenge, it kind of offers that. And of course, the trusty old Lancer with the chainsaw. Bring back to brighter days. Are there grenades here? No. Oh, whoa! I don't want to let go of my Lancer. Where did that go? There we go. Let me fill in some ammo here. Oh, there's ammo back here. But you get these like grand set pieces and really cool environmental areas. But I think at that point we should switch over. There were grenades over here. That would have closed those holes up really quickly. But we should switch up to another mode. We're going to go to the multiplayer. So this is the multiplayer component, which I really thought built up the style and the design of the original game in a number of interesting new ways. More modes, more ways to kind of interact and battle with people, and lots of DLC support. We got like a huge selection of content by the end of this one. They did a really good job in that regard. You know, adding content, really making this feel expansive, and just adding like a ton of maps. There's just so much present here, and so many ways to like execute opponents, I guess you could say. You know, the infamous quick baseball swing, which was always a blast. New types of weapons to use, more dynamic, quicker multiplayer. This one's got execution rules on. Is there not the Troika in the middle on this one? That's weird. Usually got the Troika on War Machine. But yeah, you know, Nasher being king, that was always fun. different characters. I think this one had like a real wealth of characters being present. Oh yeah, and you could crawl when you were down. There were a lot of innovations that the multiplayer of this one brought to the table. I'm, you know, like even thinking back, because you actually got to think about what each game kind of brought to the fold, and I think that's, you know, this one had a lot to it, and it really did develop the multiplayer in some exciting new ways, which are kind of fun. So there's obviously not players, but I'm actually playing online matchmaking, so you can still go and enjoy that, and you'll always be able to as long as they keep the servers going, which I think probably will be forever. I hope it is. This one definitely deserves that. But, you know, you can literally just keep playing. Even if it's against the bots, you can still enjoy that multiplayer. You can even find friends and play that way. There's ranked and social playlists. It's kind of great. And I've got my classic gold weapons, which I think were pre-order things at the time or something, or like a midnight release sort of thing. But I'm still really proud of the fact that I have them, because they were so special at the time. I'm not sure if you can buy them directly, or maybe they were given out later on. I don't know. I don't think any of the DLC or anything costs in this one, so you can just kind of jump in and enjoy the experience. But it looks really good. Like, the character models are fantastic when they're like this. It just feels a lot more like dynamic and fluid and clear, which I think is impressive. And it's just kind of a generally better version of Gears of War 2 here. That's what we're getting, is like a really clean, polished version of it. I do, again, it's another one of those situations, if you see my other content looking at Series X stuff, I wonder what the developers actually think, you know, of the experience looking like this, if they ever imagined they'd be able to have their game look this clean. I'd also, this one really would be neat to see what they could do with like a remaster or remake or something like that with this one, but I don't necessarily think you need it now that we have this update. It still would be cool though, because it had a very different sort of style. Oh jeez, that didn't work out for me at all. Yeah, just like so many characters, too many maps, like such a wealth of maps. And they were really playing around with different qualities of the maps in this one, which might sound a little odd, but they were basically doing things like weathering effects and stuff, and environmental things that we haven't really, like they did a little bit more with it playing around in the franchise, but they had things such as like, you know, the snow type maps, or they had like an emulsion map where the emulsion was slowly rising and you'd have to deal with that, or like literally avalanche. There was an avalanche that would happen in the map, and you'd get to see that happen. Those were fun little things that I think kind of made the multiplayer feel a little bit more dynamic, because they were testing out different things they could do, and I think that was kind of a fun beat in this one. Oh, he's got the mulcher. That sucks. I don't have any smoke or anything. That's not good. Oh wow, I got blasted away, but you know, even the giving and stuff's fantastic. The blasting of the characters feels a lot better now, especially the advancements even in the controller tech and stuff too. Just that blur, I think it's like a, I don't know if it's a motion blur, but it's kind of a weird nauseating effect almost, looking back on this. It does make you feel like you're really kind of gripping like action, as like everything's flowing by really fast. But yeah, this one looks really good visually. I'm quite impressed with the look of the multiplayer here. And then you do usually first to 2, which would make a lot of sense. So I thought I'd show a bit of another map, just so you get a little bit of variety in regards to the online maps, because there's so many good ones, so many different types of like packs that were released that added so much to the multiplayer. This one's got some seriously expansive offerings, and this is kind of the fun one I was talking about, where it's like a bit of a flood situation. You really gotta remember, really, you did that instead of picking me up, that hurts. You gotta remember, this one was a bit of a more like a snap in with the Nasher. It wasn't all like just hip fire. It's a little bit more of a aim into it, which is definitely interesting, and all the different weapons and stuff. The Gears of War multiplayer to me has always been really fascinating, because it is sort of like a defining cover-based shooter. It did a lot for the genre, basically made it, and there are so many games that followed afterwards that took that design, that third person, cover-based thing. It was just really interesting, and every step in the franchise did something new. Was being explorative, testing out different features, and not everything worked. I think this one had the ridiculous kind of like, I think it was the smoke grenades. I'm trying to get into the emulsion to show you the damage of it, but it had like smoke grenades that would send people flying, and I think they patched that out later on because it was ridiculous. But it also had like meat shields and picking up like regular shields and stuff. That AI's got like a deadly firing right there. As like a group in that spot. That's crazy. But with that, we're going to switch over and show off some of the Horde mode because that's important too. So this is Horde. It's kind of like a basic version of it, but it really kickstarted an interesting part of the franchise because you didn't have like the traps and the defense points that you did in the later games. It was pretty grueling, quite honestly. So what you had to do was basically kill maulers and then use the maulers like shields as a way to block off different paths. It was very creative, and it's 50 waves that you're trying to survive. So it takes a long time to play. And it's still really quite fun, and you can have other players usually. But I guess I did social matchmaking, and there's no bot teammate fill, so gotta deal with that. Another really cool factoid that I like to bring up when I'm talking about Gears 2 is that I actually played multiplayer. Actually, I was thinking it was Horde, but I played multiplayer with the devs like iFlack. Oh, well, not really a dev, but I think she's like PR. But Ferguson was there, and Cliff Blinsky, and I think some of the, maybe like an Xbox VIP or something. They were doing one of those like random nights where they're playing with others online, and I didn't realize that. I just match made against them. I played with them on like the desert type map where you're out and it's like a dead end map. It's a pretty cool map actually. I like that one. And all they did was just like chainsaw everyone in sight. It was nuts. But I like to bring it up because it's a fun, kind of memory for me looking back and just thinking of like the time I've had with Gears, because now it's like not as big of a deal when you do like review stuff and you don't really play with the higher ups, but you get to play with some of them usually like pre-launch for some of these games review wise. So it's just kind of, oh, congrats, I reached level 100. Yeah, good on me. But you just think of some of the moments and the big memories that really make up the fun you had with games over the years when you get to like go and revisit them. And that's definitely one of the defining ones for Gears 2. Aside from playing with friends and really working hard to grind out that level 100 in this game so that I could unlock, I think it was something for Gears 3, it was like gold weapon tools or something, but definitely a memorable sort of work towards kind of thing. And then on top of that, like, when you're playing Horde, there's all these different like score things you can work towards. It's really something that has grown to become its own distinct part of the game, like even a meta part of it. Because I recently showcased Gears 5 running on, the Series X, and you look at that one and you see the intense meta to the point where it's kind of like, oh, do I even really know what I'm doing, to the level that these other people that have set up like insane, intricate trap layouts are playing. Like, it's on a whole other level. Like here, it's kind of basic, you're dealing with the monsters, you don't have a lot of options, you're just trying to survive on the maps. But with each game, it just continued to get, more and more dynamic, more and more complex, a tougher difficulty level. There was a lot of variation in it. I think they did a really good job with this entry in the series, making it kind of have this mode that became a standout thing. I think even other games were kind of, like a lot of games, I like to call it the Horde era of gaming, because there's always these trends, right? Because then you started seeing all these other games, they had like these intense survival modes or horde-based modes, that's what they were always called. And nowadays you're like the battle royale type of genre. It changes over times, the trends, they come and they go, which is kind of interesting. But it's just, it's neat that you can look back and see sort of this entry in the series and how the mode has grown by itself to being like something that feels completely detached from the rest of the game almost, and how it's styled. But here it's like really close to the regular gameplay. They're just like, okay, we'll throw AI and on a map, and you'll just try to survive and kill them all. And if you fail, whatever it is, what it is. It's just kind of like a basic mode, right? You look at it here. It's just this simple thing that doesn't really well, I mean, it would take a bit of work to do all the pathing and stuff, but you get what I mean. It's kind of an easier idea to kind of spin off from the core game, whereas nowadays they've got to do all these like weird like traps, and you have different classes and abilities, and here it's just get in there with your Lancer, your Nasher, scavenge what you can find, and try to survive on all the different maps, because I think there was like achievements for all the different ones too at that time, which were kind of crazy. I remember working for a number of them, and they took quite a while. Definitely took quite a while of time to work towards with my friends or random people online. But it was fun, you know. It was just an enjoyable game. I'll always love this one. Gears 2 is just like a really, really great time, and I hope you enjoyed this kind of look at it running on the platform, because I think it looks just great. Really does look just fantastic.